Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Zach SchuZ Shoemaker. Welcome to the SchuZ Show. Joining me today to start the show off is a special guest, a man that has a 15-2 record with 10 KOs. He's ranked number 9 by the IBF and WBO, number 10 by the WBA. He's a welterweight. He goes by the nickname La Bestia, and that's Nicklaus Flaz. Nicklaus, appreciate you taking time to come on today, man. Oh, I'm quick. There we go. What's going on, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Well, first things first, we got to get into your most recent fight. We're 12 days removed now from your most recent fight against Alan Sanchez, which you had a 4th-round KO in. Now that you've had time to reflect on the fight, kind of break it down, what's your thoughts on your performance?
That's flawless performance. The victory, got the floor real quick. I thought that he couldn't withstand my punches. I just kept the
I was cutting in and out again. We'll see if we can figure this out real quick. One sec, everyone. Oh, no worries. All right, let's get right back to that now. So, obviously, we just talked about you coming off a big performance, 4th-round KO against Alan Sanchez just 12 days ago now. Walk us through just what's going through your mind, your reflection on that fight as of today.
Actually, I saw that he couldn't withstand my power, so I just kept walking him down and getting to the body so I can throw him down, throw his leg down, and that's how I got the victory.
When you look back at it, would you say that was a perfect performance for yourself? Do you feel like there's stuff you still could improve on, or how would you overall grade your performance on that night?
I will rank it like a 8.5. I could have done a lot better. I got hit like with 3 shots that got too careless with.
Okay, yeah. And I know a huge thing about you too is that you did have a main event scheduled for April. Obviously, there was a little bit of an injury issue with that one that ended up postponing it to May then when you fought. Can you take us to that? Do you feel like you're 100% now recovered from whatever the injury was?
Yeah, I'm 100% recovered. You could see I'm a last fight. Nothing
Yeah.
bothered me at all.
Absolutely, man. Well, I do want to get into your story though, Nicholas, because when we look at your career and your story, when I was researching you, you have quite the story to get to the point that you're at today. And so I want people to get to know you better before we discuss your future plans and stuff like that. So the very first question I have to ask you then is going all the way back. Was boxing what you always loved? Was that the sport that you really always wanted to pursue, or when did that come to fruition for yourself?
Actually, before I didn't like boxing. I didn't watch boxing. I didn't know a lot about boxing.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got into it, I fell in love with it. I started researching. I started watching fights. Started learning.
There, can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect, perfect. And there was also a story that I know you obviously growing up in Puerto Rico. At the age of 11 years old, you ended up coming out to the United States for a little bit. Can you take us to that? What all happened there, and what was that experience like?
Actually, yeah, my mother sent me to the United States to live with my father because I was in bad habits. I was doing drugs, stealing in the streets, and she called me and she sent me over there so I can straighten myself. I live in Red, Pennsylvania for like 5, 6 months. Then I moved to New York, the Bronx in New York.
Hmm.
I didn't like it right there, so I said I gotta fix myself so I can go back to Puerto Rico, and that's what I did. I started fixing myself, started behaving. I came back. I started getting bullied with one of my friends from the neighborhood. He was a boxer. I told one of my friends, I'm gonna go to the gym to beat him up. And I
Okay.
never got the chance to spar with him or anything until later on.
That's quite the story you just talked about there, though, because when you look at your career, obviously, I don't think people would expect you to become the person that you are today, and yet you've become this person. So, can you kind of take us through this experience? And when you got back to Puerto Rico, you start end up becoming a boxer. You start pursuing that a little bit. Could you ever imagine that you'd reach the level that you've now reached today?
Nah, I didn't. I didn't. I went to boxing and I like the adrenaline. I like getting punched. I like punching back. I was an all-out brawler in the beginning of my career. I
Hmm.
never thought I would gain so much ability, so much technique, not getting hit and hit back. So being
At
a long
what
journey and I enjoy it.
at what point in your life would you say it started to click for yourself, and you started to realize, you know what, I could actually take this in professional ranks. I could actually become a person that's a contender, a potential world champion in the future. When did that click for you?
In the fourth year, because when I started boxing, I was weighing 230 pounds. Once I left with that weight and kept winning fights here in Puerto Rico, won the nationals,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna go pro and start knocking people out.
Okay. Well, I also do want to go back real quickly to that portion of the time when you came to America, because obviously, like you said, you're 11 years old. You get sent to another country to go live in for a little bit. That had to be a little bit difficult for yourself, but obviously, it's helped you grow into the person you are today. So when you revisit that, how big was that for you to be able to take that break and kind of come back to America for a little bit? And what was that time of life like in terms of benefiting you as a person moving forward?
Actually, it wasn't 11 years old. I was 15 years old when I went to the United States.
Okay.
But it actually fit me because it was a different environment from what I'm used to. At first, I kind of liked it, but I got sick of it. I miss my island, I miss my people.
Sure.
So I said, if I want to go back, I gotta do better. If not, my mom won't send me over there.
In that time period, you've obviously been able to learn great English, which has to have helped you now in your boxing career as well. Walk us through that aspect of now being able to say, okay, you've grown up in two different places, and by the time you came back to Puerto Rico, now you have this ability to become a boxer and speak fluent English. Did that come easy for you, or how did you learn to become such a fluent English speaker? We'll try getting back here in 1 second.
So
There you go. Did you hear my question? Or want me to re-ask that for you?
Yeah. All right.
I was just re-ask that question again because you come to America and obviously English was not your native language, so you were able to adapt over time. How did you become such a fluent English speaker then?
When I used to live in Puerto Rico before, I learned English by watching cartoons in English. Then
Okay.
when I went to the States, I actually just got fluent with it.
And so you go out to Puerto Rico back again, and at that point in time, I believe you're about 15, 16 years old, and you're 5'9", you weigh 232 pounds. You end up obviously slimming down quite a bit by that point. In 18 months, I've read that you end up cutting down 100 pounds. Walk through that transition then. What led to that body transformation over that time span?
I got into boxing. I fell in love with the sport. And I just kept working on my weight little by little, going down. Started fighting 200, and they kept fighting down to divisions.
Earlier in your career, you were fighting a little bit over about 150-ish pounds, 155 you fought some fights at. You end up settling down at welterweight. Why do you feel like that's the division that you want to settle in at?
Actually, at first, I wanted to settle in 154, but
Okay.
after my first loss, I switched trainers, and he told me, "You're gonna fight at 147 if you want to train with me." I was
Okay.
like, "Damn, okay, let's do it." And we've staying at 147 ever since.
Now, do you feel like this is the weight class that you're going to stick at going forward? Do you feel like 147 welterweight's the division that you can make your mark at?
Yeah, I believe it is.
All right. Well, let's get into some of this other professional career aspects for yourself because you have had 2 losses in your career. And the biggest thing for me that I always like to say is if you learn from those losses aren't that big of a deal. I know some people put a lot more
Yeah.
pressure on the loss than others, but for yourself, you've obviously learned. You've had those 2 losses early in your career. You haven't lost now in a few years now. Walk us through those 2 losses and how much they improved you as a fighter and as a person.
Actually, my first loss, actually gassed out. I got tired. I only wanted to get the knockout. And
Hmm.
after that loss, I told myself, not every fight is gonna get knocked out. You're gonna learn defense, learn how to cut the ring, learn more, get better.
Right.
And that's when I met my new trainer. David Oyola. I'm training with him right now.
Mm-hmm.
That was back in 2018,
Okay.
and ever since I stayed with him. Then in 2020, I went to make camp in Florida. I was in training with him, and I got a fight. But since the COVID was I could come back to Puerto Rico and then back to the States. So I stayed over there.
Mm-hmm.
I got the fight. I got too reckless and got knocked out.
Right. As you've progressed now, you haven't lost in 4 years now, a little 5 years now almost at this point in time. Do you feel like those losses have now made you a better fighter? And how big is it also at the same time for a boxer to be able to learn from their losses? Because you're going to have setbacks at times, but how big is it to be able to learn from those losses so that you don't make those same mistakes later on?
Well, a loss can make you or destroy you. If you learn from it, you're gonna keep improving. If you don't learn from it, you're gonna keep losing and going backwards.
Right. Over the past few years, and actually, I'll even say this: when we go to the second loss you had in 2020, could you have imagined that you would be in the position you're at today? Like, was this something that you expected that, okay, I'm going to learn from this, I'm going to get better, I'm going to reach the points I'm at today? Or would you have been shocked if I would have told you after that loss that you'd be a guy that's top 10 ranked in 3 different boards?
I was actually shocked because after that loss, kept calling me to be the B side, I guess, undefeated fighters and shit. But I believed in myself, and here we are. Thank God.
Absolutely, man. Now let's look over the past couple of years because you had a couple of signature wins. One of the big ones I'd say that I really started paying attention to, really liked your fighting style, was against Jahai Tucker, who now obviously moved to 160, and obviously he's now a great prospect as well. Do you feel like that was a big moment for you to when you were able to go up against another top ranked prospect and be able to put on the performance you did that night? Do you feel like that was almost a turning point of your career?
Yeah, I believe it was because Tucker was a big name at the moment. He still is because he keeps winning.
Right.
And to be the underdog and come out with the victory against a top prospect from top rank, it really put me in the map.
And then we process all the way up to this point in time. As I said, you fight Alan Sanchez. You're a guy that's now a co-main event, a main event type of caliber guy. A guy that's ranked in the top 10. And I have to ask you then, when you look at yourself going forward now, and you look at the next 12 to 18 months for yourself, where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself in how many fights you're going to fight? What could you accomplish? Like, where do you see yourself being now a year and a half from this point in time?
I see myself being a world champion, fighting for a world title.
That's obviously a huge statement to make then. So I have to ask you then, what gives you that confidence? Why do you feel so confident in yourself moving forward?
Because I got a great team behind me. My trainer, my promoter, Samson, they all backing me up. And because this is not a one-man job, it's a team job.
I have heard some rumors. It came out just about yesterday that Rohan Polanco, he's going to expect to return July 26th. And I heard that there's 2 names involved. You're one of those names. Also another name, Blair Cobbs. Have you heard about that? Is that true? Could we possibly be seeing you fight on July 26th against Rohan Polanco?
Now on July 26th,
Okay.
because they only said my name, but we never got an offer. And my promoter was already working for me, and he got other plans.
Okay. So you won't probably be on that card then, but could we possibly see you fight Polanco later on?
Yeah, probably later on. Yeah.
If you were to look at everybody at welterweight, the division's popping right now. There's a lot of big time fighters right now in the weight class. Is there something that you see that you want to fight? Out of everybody available right now, is there one guy that you're on that you'd like to fight?
I don't know. Anyone ranked above me, that's who I want.
All right. When you look at some of those other guys right now, I just want to pick your brain on boxing overall. We know the Pac-Man Barrios fight's going to just got announced. What's your thoughts overall on that fight?
I mean, Pac-Man is coming back after, I think, 2 year layoff.
Mm-hmm.
His age will play a lot in it too. He didn't look good on his exhibition. It's not the same Pacquiao we saw, like, let's say, 5, 6 years ago.
Right.
So
Do you believe that that's a good fight that got made? Do you feel like that's a legitimate fight between Barrios and Pac-Man, or just overall the fact that we have a guy that's 46 years old fighting? Do you feel like that's a little bit odd when you talk about obviously him just being thrown into the rankings and now getting a world championship shot right away?
yeah, I think it's a little bit odd. I don't think that fight should have been made. They
Right.
should leave the they put him in the rankings without even fighting again. He just popped right in.
Mm-hmm. 100% agree, man. Well, you being 29 years old, obviously you still have a lot left in the tank, but when you talk about, you could possibly have another big fight here soon. When could we possibly see you back in the ring? Is there a certain time period that you want to return to the ring?
Yeah, I probably want to be back like late July, early August,
Okay.
and hopefully my promoter makes that happen.
In that fight, will we see you possibly fighting another ranked opponent?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. I like it, man. Well, I got a few more questions before I let you go. One of which is that you talked about obviously going for the world championship. That's what your goal is. And there's a lot of different routes you could go down because you're obviously ranked in the IBF, WBO, WBA. Is there a certain one that you're trying to shoot for, whether that be the IBF, WBO, WBA, that you're trying to work your way up that ranking group?
For me personally, I want to go for the WBO.
Okay. And I also want to ask you, I was actually going to ask you this in the beginning, but you have the nickname La Bestia. Can you take us through that? I know that's the beast in English for those that don't know, but can you take us through the meaning behind that, how that nickname come to be?
Actually, I adopted that name from the amateurs because people keep calling me, "Oh, that kid's a beast, that kid's a beast." Actually, I
Mhm.
adopted it, but recently I changed it to Nico,
Okay.
my real nickname. People call me Nico in real life, so I just put Nico on it. Like the bestia, that's the old me, the one that got knocked out. Now it's Nico fighting.
All right. So what led to that transformation? Why did you decide that, it's time to make the transition from the beast or La Bestia to Nico?
Nico is smarter and has a higher IQ than La Bestia. La Bestia was just a brawler.
All right. I love that, man. Well, I got one final question for you. It's the question I like to wrap up every single interview with, and that's talking about your legacy. At one point in time, obviously, you're going to move on from boxing, you're going to step away from the sport. When that day does come, what is it that you want to be remembered for what you've accomplished both inside and outside of the ring?
Well, inside the ring, I want to be remembered like by an inside fighter that always give a great show to the fans and a great champion.
I love that, man. Well, Nico, I appreciate you taking time to come on in, man. I cannot wait to see what God's got in store for you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. You're always welcome on, man. God bless.
God bless. Take care.
You too, man. I appreciate it for tuning into the interview. I'll get that clipped up and edited out very shortly and then post on my YouTube channel separately. I'll see you guys shortly. I'm going to go a short break and I'll get back to the rest of the show after that. See you guys soon. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SchuZ Show. As I said about the interview, yes, there was a couple technical difficulties in the very beginning. So if you want to watch the full interview straightforward without the different pauses we had there with the Wi-Fi issues, make sure to go check that out later tonight. I'll have that posted up on my YouTube channel. With that being said, though, it's time to get into a couple different things. To wrap up this show, we're going to get into a fight preview for tomorrow night's card. I guess it'll be tomorrow afternoon my time. Terri Harper versus Natalie Zimmermann. I'll also be getting into some boxing news. Not a lot of stuff has been coming out this past couple of days, so it won't be too long of a segment. But let's hop right to it now. First and foremost, tomorrow, I'm either going to have a show going down in the midst of the show, in the midst of the fight card, to kind of do a live watch party with it, or I'll do a live reaction, because the problem is I have an interview tomorrow scheduled that's not 100% confirmed. A couple different things happening with that. And so depending on when the interview happens, it'll depend on when the show happens. But I'll let you guys know before the show starts so you guys know when to tune in. Let's hop into what tomorrow will be bringing to us. Terri Harper, Natalie Zimmermann card. There's two things I'm going to get into that from that card, the co-main and the main event. Let's start with the co-main event. Maxie Hughes versus Archie Sharp, a lightweight clash. Archie Sharp was on the show just about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago now, and he previewed the fight a little bit for us. He talked about the fact that he thinks he's going to go out there and get the win and start working his way back up the rankings now that he has moved up officially to his new weight class. So let's preview what you expect in this fight. Maxie Hughes is coming off of a record of 28-7-2 with 6 KOs, where Archie Sharp is 25-1 with 9 KOs. This is going to be a big performance between the two guys that both have a chance to elevate themselves back into contention. They all both have had their fair share of losses. They're going to have to rebuild themselves a little bit. So this will be a huge fight for them there. Hughes is the former IBO world champion. He rebounded from losses against a dominant win with Gary Coley just a few months ago. As for Sharp, he's now moving up to 135, I alluded to. At 130, he was once a guy that people reviewed as a top prospect. He was once a guy that was in the top of the rankings, potentially going to fight a guy like Shakur Stevenson. However, due to some inactivity, some promotional issues, he fell down a little bit, suffered a loss, and now is working his way back up the rankings at 135 now. That's what we're going to be expecting here at this point in time. So what do you expect in this fight? Well, for Hughes, he's a smart boxer, strong fundamentals, also has good ring IQ. For Sharp, we know he's slick movement. He has great fast footwork. He's also unorthodox with his angles. When you talk about this fight, the biggest thing is that Maxie Hughes will be fighting in his hometown. He's going to be the hometown favorite, the A side, and will have people rooting for him. Whereas Archie Sharp is going up against that. Archie Sharp also is not accustomed to this weight class yet, and so there's going to be quite a few things going against Archie Sharp in this fight. If I were to make my prediction right now, the fight will be going to decision. I don't see the KO happening. I think it's going to be a decision fight. And if I had to pick out a victor right now, it would be Maxie Hughes. I do like Archie Sharp's chances. I'm not going to say this is a fight where I'm 100% confident in Maxie Hughes coming out with the victory here. But what I do see is the fact that these two guys are essentially very near a 50-50 fight, in my opinion. And when you factor in the fact that this is a weight class that Maxie Hughes is accustomed to, also that he's going to have the hometown place behind him, I feel like that might just give him the certain edge. But as I said, this is not a fight that I'm firmly confident in, nor is this a fight that I believe is a guaranteed loss to put all your money on. This is very much a 50-50 fight, in my opinion. And so when I look at that, I do believe that we're going to see a chance right now where Maxie Hughes will come out victorious, but do not rule Archie Sharp out. Archie Sharp has a very good chance of making a statement tomorrow and having that comeback victory to set himself up to go higher in the rankings at 135. Let's head over to the main event now. Terri Harper, Natalie Zimmermann for the WBO lightweight title. Terri Harper is 15-2 with 6 KOs. She defends her WBO lightweight title against unbeaten German challenger Natalie Zimmermann, who is 13-0 with 3 KOs. At the end of the day, I feel like this is going to be a fight that's kind of obvious to call. Now, anything can happen in boxing. Don't get that twisted. But when you talk about Terri Harper, a 3-division world champion, she's won her belt and defended it since 2024. She is an incredible fighter. And while Zimmermann is obviously undefeated, she has a great resume. She's a good fighter as well. Terri Harper is a person, when you look at her, she's looking at somebody that could be going for unification fights. She's a person that's going to be potentially a dominant figure here. And it's very hard for me to picture a world where Terri Harper does not come out victorious tomorrow. She is an incredible person that already has her eyes set, which could possibly hinder her. She has her eyes set on doing the unification of Caroline Dubois, which would be an interesting fight to make there. But when I look at this fight, as good as Natalie Zimmermann is, I see Terri Harper coming out victorious by a wide decision. Her experience, her skill, her ability to understand the place that they're going to be fighting in, to understand the pressure and still perform at a high level, I think that puts her up against the Natalie Zimmermann, gives her a massive edge. So I do have Terri Harper pulling off the win against Zimmermann tomorrow, and then would likely force a great unification fight against Caroline Dubois later on this year. Now, just to give a preview for those that are tuning in that have not been on the show before, Anytime you guys want to comment any questions or have any feedback, whatever you guys want for me to address on the show, go ahead and leave it in the comment section. I'll have a segment after each portion of my show. I'll have different segments and then hop into a portion where I'll address any comments or boxing topics with you guys. And this will be essentially the fill-in for what will future be added onto the show, which will be a live call-in. So that's going to happen in the future. But for now, before I get the call-in added in, if you guys have any boxing topics, any questions, put them in the comment section. I'll make sure to address them after I have each playing segment. So just for you guys, give a little heads up there. Let's hop into some boxing news, though. Devin Haney has announced his hit list. Now, it wasn't necessarily Devin Haney announcing this. It was Bill Haney announcing it. But here is Devin Haney's hit according to Bill Haney. Number 1, Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson, Gervonta Tank Davis, Jerome Boots Ennis, Brian Norman, Mario Barrios, Keyshawn Davis, Raleigh Romero, Connor Benn, and last but not least, Ron Garcia. Very interesting list here. I'm not going to break down each and every single name here. There's no point in doing that. Here's what the key points are that I'm going to address, though. 1, I'm a little bit shocked to see Connor Benn at number 9. Now, I understand that he's been accustomed to be essentially, most people believe that Connor Benn's going to be fighting at 154 moving forward. So if that's the factor, then fine, but I don't know why he's even on that list. But if Connor Benn slimmed down to 147 still, that would be a mega fight for Devin Haney. So I'm a little bit shocked he didn't want that fight. Number 10, I feel like Ron Garcia would just add on into this list simply to be a guy that's added onto the list. I think there's something a little bit of shots there. Like, if I were to be honest, I think you probably would put Ron Garcia above, I guess Mario Barrios as the world champion. So I'd probably put him above Keyshawn Davis potentially. But at the end of the day, I think they just threw him on there just to kind of ruffle some feathers there. Other things I want to point out from this list. Boots Ennis was number 4. A little bit shocked that you'd have the unified champion at 147 all the way at number 4. I get Tank Davis would be a massive fight to make, but that's unrealistic. If Devin Haney is at 147, Tank Davis is not coming back into that weight class. So that makes no sense in my opinion. And then you look at the two other ones. Shakur Stevenson, very same thing there. What I really want to emphasize this, though, is Teofimo Lopez. I talked about this earlier in the week. Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney is the fight to make. Devin Haney is not necessarily ready to go after and fight Jerome Boots Ennis right away. I'm not saying he can't win that fight, but I'm saying if you're going to move up to 147 and you're going to go after Jerome Boots Ennis in your second fight at 147, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Teofimo Lopez is the fight that makes sense. Two guys coming up from 140. Both guys have been kind of pitted against each other for quite some time now. This would be a massive fight to make in New York City. Massive. And I feel like that's the fight to make. Now, would it be the most entertaining fight in the world? I'm not sure. It depends what version of Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney we get. But as I will say time and time again, when Teo fights a guy that is at a high level, Teo likes to rise his ability to fight and fight at the best of his ability. And when that occurs, you get a very special, good Teofimo Lopez. You could say the very same thing as Devin Haney as well. When the stakes are higher, Haney likes to rise to those occasions. And there's a chance that when we get those two guys squared off in a ring, the buildup would be great. But when you get those two guys in the ring, I think we have a chance to have a masterclass performance with two different guys. Two guys of great skill, technique. And listen, I will always say this. Devin Haney is extremely skilled. I get these things that people want to judge him and hate on him for. Fine, you do you. But when I evaluate a fighter, there's no debating that Devin Haney is still one of those guys that's a top 15 talent in boxing right now. Likewise with Teofimo Lopez. So when I look at those two guys, this is a perfect fight to happen. You could have said this fight should have happened 1 or 2 years ago. But now is certainly the right time. It makes perfect sense. Because the winner of that fight sets himself up for a world title fight then easily, without a shadow of a doubt, at 147. And so by Devin Haney putting Teofimo Lopez right there, I agree with that. And I think both guys need to come together because for Teo, the Boots Ennis fight is probably not going to happen right now. Boots Ennis has to do a mandatory fight right now. Now, yes, you could step him aside, all the different things. No. Boots Ennis has to do his mandatory. Barnes is set up to fight Pacquiao. Brian Norman is set to fight Jin Sasaki. Those guys are all going to be booked out for the next few months. They're probably not going to be returned to the ring, any of them, for another 4-ish months. So who else are you going to fight? Ron Garcia has to be off the table at this point in time. So the fight between Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez must be made. I absolutely love that fight. I think we need to see those two guys go after it. When you talk with those two guys, like I said, absolutely great skills. Two guys step in that ring will be an incredible fight. It should happen in New York City. I know if it's a Turkey Out Sheik card, who knows what it's going to be put at. But if it's in New York City, that's the fight to make between those two guys. Other news I'm going to get into, Janibek has announced his ideal next 3 fights. And let me just say this. If Janibek comes out of victorious of this game plan he just set up, Janibek would probably be regarded as a top top 10 potentially pound for pound fighter in the world right now. Now, I probably would say top 10. Because what he announced was he wants to fight Carlos Adames in summer 2025, Eris Landry Lara, which would be for undisputed then, in the fall or winter 2025, and then hop over and fight Canelo Alvarez Cinco de Mayo weekend, May 2026. Does this come to fruition? I have no idea. But what I will say is this. If you're telling me that he's going to knock off Carlos Adames, who I believe is the second best fighter at 160, Eris Landry Lara, who's the other champion, would become undisputed at 160, move up to 168, and defeat the king of 168 right now, Canelo Alvarez. That would be one heck of a resume and run. Janibek is a guy that I believe is one of the most underrated fighters in all of boxing right now. The things that Janibek has accomplished, the way he's able to fight, listen, he does not have a massive branding. And that has hindered him. His agent just came out and talked about this last week. That the fact that his branding is not massive, that he does not have a massive profile, hinders him drastically. Because now a lot of big fighters don't want to fight him because they know that he's extremely skilled, but won't bring the big finances. When you talk about Janibek, if he's able to get this fight, I have to imagine Turkey's the only way it's going to happen. But if he can go off a run of Carlos Adames, Eris Landry Lara, and Canelo Alvarez and pull those 3 fights off, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if he does that, it's hard to imagine that he's not a top 10 pound for pound fighter. He has every single fight ability to become that. I mean, I truly do think he's one of the most underrated fighters, I said. I think he's the king of 160 right now. Him becoming undisputed would solidify that list right there. But when you talk about him, he is phenomenal. And I think he's such an underrated fighter where if he does that, if you get the Canelo fight, obviously it's going to grow his brand. And that would be a fight I'd love to see. Because I've said this yesterday on yesterday's show. The problem with 168 is that there's nobody that Canelo's going to fight that is even entertaining. And I think that's a large reason why we're getting Bud Crawford, where obviously, yes, Canelo has all the odds going for him in that fight. But it's a unique, interesting fight. Whereas everybody else at 168, I don't think it's going to be competitive either. You look at all these guys at 168. Caleb Plant would be a rematch anyways. You have Charlo possibly working his way up, but that fight makes no sense right now. You have so many different fights that could hypothetically get made, but they just are not big enough fights that make sense, or guys that he's already fought. So the Bud Crawford fight essentially just became there because it's a big financial fight for him. And what else is there? Every fight's going to be a massive advantage for Canelo regardless, unless you do the David Benavidez fight, which is a story for another time. So if he wants to go to Janibek, that would be the best fight to make for Canelo. The actually best fight to make for Canelo Alvarez, not including a David Benavidez, Bivol, Beterbiev, whatever, him moving up to 175, would be Janibek moving up to fight him at 168. And so I think that'd be a huge fight to make. And if Janibek comes out of that unscratched and comes out 3-0 out of that run, as I said, Janibek would have to be regarded as a top 3 or top 10 pound for pound fighter heading into what? That'd be Cinco de Mayo weekend of 2026. Let's get into some of the comments we got right now. Adam, absolutely, man. I think when you talk about that fight, Janibek versus Canelo, just said, would be a huge fight. I don't think there's a fight that we look at right now that Canelo is going to fight that he will take. I don't think he's taking David Benavidez. And I also don't see a path for him fighting Bivol anytime soon. I think that Janibek's this fight. Because obviously, yes, let's be honest. Caleb Plant would be entertaining to some extent, but it's not a good fight. Like as we've already seen Edgar Berlanga, we've already seen Jaime Munguia. You know, you have other guys in the mix there. Obviously, Hamza Shiraz could get interesting, but I mean, Hamza Shiraz, who knows what he's going to look like at 168. The last time we saw him, he did not look very good at 160. So there's a lot of things on the table at 168, but without a doubt, I feel like Janibek is the best fight possible to make for Canelo Alvarez. Truly the best fight. Things could go sideways, though. Obviously, it pulls off a massive upset on, September 17th, 18th now. That would be probably scratch a lot of the plans. But if Canelo beats Bud as expected, and then we move over into May, that would be a huge fight to make. Let's see what he said. Savannah Marshall, Sadisha Green in July, in case you didn't know. Interesting fight. Definitely. That's also a good fight to see. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll preview those fights. Typically what I do for those that obviously I know you're new, so I like to preview the fight specifically. I'll announce them when they get announced, but typically I'll do it the Thursday or the day before the fights happen. I'll announce the fight. So definitely preview that more so when we get closer to that. But yes, you're right. Absolutely a very interesting fight that'll be fun to watch and see that pan out. With that being said, though, guys, I'm just going to give you guys a quick preview. I do have another show coming up in a couple hours. It's going to be a basketball show, though, so if you want to tune into that one, make sure to go ahead and check in a couple hours. It's going to be 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, so that's my time. That's going to be 2 hours if you're wondering. So you guys can tune into that show if not. But regardless, I'll be on the live show with the boxing show tomorrow. The options for what that's going to look like, and I'll announce that tomorrow morning, would either be a show that's going to be right before the Archie Bradley, right before the Archie fight, and then I'll probably live preview it, depending on when the interview happens. Or I'll be coming on right after the fights, right after the Zimmermann and Terri Harper fight. I'll be breaking down that fight and then get into my interview after that. So it kind of depends. My guest for tomorrow is a really well-known trainer and manager in boxing. So depending on if he's able to still come on tomorrow, he's traveling right now back from a fight. So if he's able to hop on the show tomorrow, it will kind of determine when that show goes down. But tomorrow I will be hopping on live, breaking down or reviewing or live watching the card tomorrow, as well as them giving us a preview for what's coming up on Saturday and Sunday in the fight world. So I appreciate you guys all for tuning in. I will see you guys in a couple of hours if you guys tune into that show. If not, for the boxing fans, I will see you guys tomorrow. May God bless you guys all. Have an incredible rest of your guys' Thursday. I will see you guys later on. SchuZ out. God bless you guys.